Alright, so we've been blessed with rain. Like I said, always be careful what you ask for, because you might get it, and you might get it in excess. So, here we are. Sorry about that intro. It was pretty long and drawn out. You know, when you pay for a service and you don't get that service done, what is that called? We have a little problem here where we bought our property. We're actually in a POA, and we pay in to have the main road maintained, and the entire neighborhood's supposed to be evenly maintained. So when we pay into something like that, we expect to kind of get something in return, right? If I went to get my car fixed, I gave them $1,000 to fix that carburetor, and they don't do anything at all with that, there's something wrong with that. That's actually fraudulent. And you could really return it and sue those people to get your carburetor fixed, perhaps your money back. And somehow the land baroners here that live here don't seem to be fazed by that. They kind of don't mind at all what happens down here on this end. And you know what? I really don't care either myself. I just don't really want to pay for some service that I'm not getting in return. Let's get off that rant.
We live in a POA, which means Property Owners Association, similar to an HOA, but a little bit different. You might be wondering if it makes any sense at all to homestead within a POA, and hopefully after you watch this video, you will have your answer. So first of all, let's talk about a few benefits of being in a POA. It really is to serve the community interests. It's to help create rules and enforce those rules within the community. POAs are really a lot less restrictive than HOAs, and they're really meant for maintaining common areas, meaning roads. So here in Arizona, we do get a lot of heavy monsoon rains that can wash out the roads. We chose to purchase property in a POA because we thought that the roads would be better maintained than if we didn't live in a POA and had to do the maintenance ourselves. That's not always the case, unfortunately. So for us personally, it's worked out fine, homesteading within a POA, and I'll tell you one of the main reasons why is because before we purchased our property, we did get all the things that we wanted to do approved by the board on official board letterhead, and then after we purchased the property, we went ahead and had those same things approved again. So we did it as potential owners, and then we did it and got it approved again as actual owners. So that was an important piece, and we would recommend anybody that might be homesteading in a POA considers doing that, because it really does give you quite a layer of protection. Some of the cons of living in a POA are that the rules can be restrictive, and that does go back to what I just explained earlier about us getting things approved before we purchase the property and also after. Some of those rules can be something as simple as what color you paint your house, what kinds of things that you plant in your yard, whether or not you can have chickens, whether or not you can have livestock, whether or not you can let your dog run free. That's another big consideration for homesteaders. So the other piece of this is that you have dues that you have to pay every year. Similar to taxes, your dues can go up every year. And here in Arizona, your dues can increase by up to 20% a year. So that's something to take into account. And if you've got a POA that is mismanaging your funds, there are some remedies that you can go through, and some of those include filing a complaint with the board, removing certain board members, taking legal action, and also you can, in Arizona, you can file a complaint with the Arizona Department of Real Estate, and they're the ones that kind of oversee POAs. So that's pretty much my soapbox on POAs and HOAs. You have to make a determination if it's going to be a fit for you, and then do some things to protect yourself so that it doesn't become an issue for you in the future.
This is my entrance to my house. It is a lake. And I'm probably going to bed in my car tonight. There's my house up on the hill.
Let's take a look at our road. And I kind of showed you like the storm. I left work and came down in a rainstorm, and you could see the top of the neighborhood was perfect. The water, the road is like perfectly got a crown on it, and the water rolls on both sides. As soon as you stop seeing power lines, that's when you see the water on the road. Big puddles, impassable for regular cars. Good thing I have a all-terrain moon vehicle. So anyhow, I'm showing you my property. I couldn't show you this when it's bone dry because you just don't see the signs of water damage. That's Ted. Right there, that's Ted. He's being very loud. He wants to be in the video. Here, you guys have been watching along my water management thing and how I built up this area down here. I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay, so we have ponds. What it took to get these ponds here, normally this would just wash out. I set up some boulders here, some rocks, and you can see it's blown out. And since I built this, we've never had rain this serious, so I've been waiting for this moment to see exactly where the weak spots are. Obviously, the water came in, went around, busted this open, and flowed around it. So that's my weak spot. It also went over, you can tell by looking at this debris. This stuff here that the water actually went over top also. This is all good. This is perfect. I love that happened. I'm even glad that busted through, because now I know where I'm going to strengthen this when it's more dry out. I'm going to come back and strengthen this. But the other thing I wanted to show you is silt deposits. I didn't just put these rocks down here hoping that the rocks would hold back the flood and the heavy rain. That's not the intention of the rocks. The rocks are to act as a binder to join all this silt that is floating down. This silt, you can tell, this silt has a lot of things in it. Look at closely here. You can see germination happening. Right, all these plants are going to germinate around this pond. So that's good too, because what happens with plants is they put their roots into the ground and stabilizes the banks of this. So at some point, now that I know the silt is filled in between the rocks, and we might need a couple more rainfalls to come in and really penetrate these rocks and compact it, because most of this is clay. Clay, great for holding water. So in the future, I plan on putting a couple trees here, probably ones that don't need a lot of water, but will do good here because of this pond that will be here during this time of the year, and in the slower rainfall times of the other parts of the monsoon. So the other thing I wanted to show you, this road, like I said, I brought in rock and dirt and came across and leveled it. I knew that wouldn't stay there. This wall is to slow down the water. It slowed it down. It did remove some of this rock and that and blew it down into here. This was a level spillway. It was to slow down the water and divert it so it went in different directions. And guess what? That's what happened. So this got blown out. These rocks weren't big enough to hold back the water, so they're all down there now. So now we have this pond here that wasn't here before. Look, this cat is driving me crazy. These big rocks stayed here. You got more germination going on here, more seeds. These banks will eventually grow in. We got pond, we got pond, we got pond. So that is perfect. You can look closely. There's silt in between those rocks now. That's what we needed. We also have a blowout where the water was more powerful. It went right through there. So I will fix that also at one point, or I'll allow that to just do what it's doing. You don't want to fight nature. You want to work with it. You want to see what it's doing on its own and try to do as little manipulation as possible. And that's what I've done here. So even though it looks like a mess to you guys, this is a success to me. I also see that there's a low spot on the road. This, I'll come back and bring it up some dirt, and I'll put a channel along here to force it into here. We almost had it go all the way through. It almost made it down here, but it didn't. So I'm going to have to just take a shovel, take some loads of dirt out of here, and it'll naturally just flow into here. So in order for us to observe, we have to actually have all those elements come together all at once, and that's what happened here. Is we had our monsoon heavy torrential downpour rains, and this has given us a great lesson, a lesson of how the water flows down these. And now we have potential for growing trees down here, albeit they'll probably be local trees, but it'll give us a little shaded area down here, and it'll be good for like the birds and all that good stuff. And Willow's already getting into the water. And Ted's over there, about to attack her. I'm going to show you some other signs up here on the road. So right here, another thing, I'm going to have to fix this, but now I know that I'm going to have to fix it because you would never have known in the dry season. Channel of water coming through down the road, going down where I want it to go, but I wanted this channel to be on the edge. So we will have to do some fixing. We got a lot of work to do on this homestead. Water management is probably the most important because that keeps you from coming and going. It can wash the road away. You could have a ravine going through here if you leave it unfixed. So I'm going to go up and show you the subtle details that could become pretty big problems if you don't fix them right away. It's all about the water. So I only have 10% on my battery. We're going to make this kind of short, and then I got to go charge the camera up. But as you can see, subtle details. If this was dry, you wouldn't even notice it. Very shallow cut right here, and a very deep cut here. So that means I have a low spot here. The water is coming off this hill and coming down the drive, and it wants to go down the middle, but it's also found a path over here. I'm going to emphasize this path with my tractor. I'm going to come back in and dig this in and probably lay more dirt here to crown it, and and follow what nature wants to do. It wants to go along here, but I want it off the road, and here's a flat spot in the road. It's really hard to see where the dog's at, where the cat's at. You can see where the water almost eddied right here. We don't want that. We want it to go off into the brush. So we're going to come along. We're going to just cut. I could do this with a shovel. Hand shovel. Just come along, put a couple notches. We're just persuading the water to go this way. Because this is a curve, it'll just keep going down the road until it finds a low spot, and then it'll drop off. But I'm going to intentionally have it go out so the water will not sit on the road. We'll show you more examples of this. When you have something like this coming down your road or on your property anywhere, when you see water flowing, what do you want to do? Do you want to capture it? If you want to capture it, put a T across. Dig a trench that way. Right? Now if you want to divert it, at an angle, right? At an angle, let's find this. So I want it to go like that. You can direct it so easily. Even my footprint there will probably, next time it rains, will actually make a impact, and the water will actually go this way a little bit. That's all you got to do. It's really simple. on a driveway. When you're up like this working with washes though, it's a little different. You got to go a little deeper. The steeper that you are, the more deeper you got to dig your trenches. When you're out in the flats, they need to be wide and shallow, almost exactly like this road. That's how you would make your trenches to capture water and divert it. If you're going to capture water, dig something big like this. We don't have any water in there, but the other day that it rained, it did fill up with some water. This whole thing did. And then you can plant trees on the other side of this swale, this berm. There's another one. Same thing. This thing will capture water that all flows down this hill from the house. Everything on this, because there's no plants absorbing up the water, it's just going to sheet flow into this pit. And that's all good. And then everything else over here, it can stay in the desert, right? I just want what I can capture that's not going to cost me too much labor on my part. It's going to take a very keen eye to notice what's going on here. This is going down the driveway. We got water that's going down. It goes down and it crisscrosses over the road in these little mini channels. And so I took my tractor and I'm going to see if it actually worked a little bit. Probably won't be able to tell this time. But before, it was even going over here into this corner and tucking around my building. I don't want that at all. We want to stay away from the building. So I took my tractor and I just ran a line parallel with the building straight down, trying to make it slightly deeper just to give it that water a place to go. You can see how it actually worked a little bit. The water comes here, it's staying in this channel, and then at the end of this, before it was going right down the driveway. And you can still see some of it, some of these patterns of where it's going down the road. But these ones here, I'm going to have to manage across the road. So I'm going to put a berm right along here. I'll either backfill it with something absorbent like sticks and brush and dirt and plant things into it and act as a water catch. Instead of diverting the water, we'll catch it here. And that way it won't go down this road. But here, the stuff on this side, the stuff that wants to roll naturally over here, we carved this trench in here, and I put a mini berm right here to tell the water, go down that way. So now, when the water comes down here, it should naturally go into the desert, because I'm not intending on capturing water down here. Now I'll go down and I'm going to show you a pretty big problem I'm going to have. What I'm going to figure it out is what am I going to do with this corner, because water's still going to come from the landscape up here and come down, and it wants to go over this road. So I'm going to have to either put a trench in the road, sending it out that way, or something. I haven't figured this one out. This one's a little more complicated, but for now I have this channels going like this, and I'm sending it off the driveway out here, so it goes into the desert there. This road is getting pretty ruined. I'm going to have to completely rebuild this road and do everything that I've talked about, and we'll see what happens. So instead of sitting here listening to me complain, I'm going to kind of give you a little advice. Buy a topographic map of your property, one that's as detailed as possible. It's worth spending $100 on a real good topographical map, so detailed where you can see bushes from space, right? That's where your first step should be, so that you can see, and make sure it has contour lines on it showing elevation, rise and gain, and where your low spots are. So you could potentially put in a lake where it's already low as it is. Get that map and then study your property, not only on the map, but get out and look. Get a nice poncho for the rain, and when it storms, go outside. Don't get electrocuted from the lightning, but go ahead and see how that water is flowing. See where your largest bodies of water are moving across your land, and where they're moving, if it's in an ideal spot or in a place that's really not good for you. But if you get those two things, observation via satellite and from ground level by walking around, you're going to have a real good idea of what's going on in your property and how your water is flowing and how you can make it work for you. In dry climates, it's really good to be able to capture as much water as you can before it goes into your neighbor's property or down the road, like our case. But here's what our fees go to fixing in our neighborhood. This is, you saw how it looked up at the top, right? This is how it looks down below.
Yeah, you already saw pictures of this. This is where I couldn't cross. I still can't cross it. Not via the road. Last time they had somebody actually come out here, he dug a pond here, and as I saw him digging it, I knew that's exactly what was going to happen, is the water was going to pond here and slowly sink into the ground here and make it mud for several days. Instead of leaving it like it should have been, just leaving it alone, where the sand would have completely went around, the water would have went through, gone its way downhill into the valley, and we wouldn't have this pond here. So I'm wondering what the motives were behind putting this pond here, specifically at the end of our drive. And there's our dog. So we found a way around it. We got four-wheel drive, to say the least, and so we just go around on the high spot. We stay on the sand because the sand gets compacted after a monsoon, so it's kind of stiff enough to drive on, as opposed to the mud and whatever they were thinking about here. We used to have this tractor guy that was here, and he used to fill us with caliche, and then he'd put the sand over top of it, and that sucker would stay there. Even during the monsoon, it'd flow and then disappear and dry up, and we were driving on it that day. As opposed to now, it's been almost a week, and this still hasn't dried. It's still about 1.5 feet of mud, and I don't even try to get my vehicle on that. It's not going to happen. So whoever the mastermind was behind that, we're not going to go into those details, but maybe they should take a course or two in water management.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show you I have a lot of work to do. Good thing I have a tractor. Like I said, if you guys own over 4 or 5 acres of property, it's really advisable to get a tractor or know somebody that will let you use theirs. And yeah, it's all about the water. We don't get much of it out here, but when we do, it comes down like a power hose, basically, and does some pretty good damage. I'm still grateful. I'm grateful that somebody at least put a few hours into trying to fix the road a couple years ago, but as for last year, they didn't even come down our way. They went to the end of the power lines, they stopped there, and they just refined all the real nice roads. They're already nice. They didn't really need any repairing at all. Maybe a slight grading. A lot of that money could have been used for the neighborhood down here below. Yeah, I love it here. A little cool now that it rained, but I've got a lot of work to do. Sorry, we'll probably put this video up before the septic one because we still haven't heard back from the county. They're we think they're playing games with us now. Don't know why. We've seen other YouTubers do the same thing we're doing, and they were passed immediately, and don't know why they're giving us such a problem. We think there's a lot of changes going on in the county at the supervisory level, and we think that they're up to some shenanigans with us off-gridders. Don't know it yet, though. I might be just paranoid. But guys, hope you like this video. If you'd like to see more videos on water management, just let me know. Post something at the bottom. I know a little bit. I'm not an expert. Please don't emulate anything I do. This channel's for entertainment only. So until next time, adios, guys. That little hole there,
Probably 12 feet deep. That's where we think the peat prospectors a long time ago dug that really deep in this wash. And it's super deep. I didn't know it'd fill up all the way. I didn't know it'd hold water either. That's pretty interesting. But pretty cool things happening in the desert. And we got water slowly flowing, which is the intention. Slow flowing water, that's what you want. Slow flowing water. Willow's Pond.